Hello and welcome to Haemcast. I'm Kathryn Jenner. This episode is part of our series in collaboration with local families with bleeding disorders, a supportive group for parents, children and other family members affected by bleeding disorders including haemophilia and von Willebrand disease, amongst others. Bleeding disorders affect the whole family, even if not everyone has one, but the experiences of parents and other family members can sometimes be overlooked. For this episode, I spoke with Emma, Anya and Tom. All of them live with a partner who has a bleeding disorder, and I was interested to hear about what life is like for them. Here's Emma. I began by asking her about when she met her husband Andrew and how she felt when he told her he has von Willebrand disease.
We met when we were really young. I was 17 and my husband was 19, and we met through a friend. I had not heard of the bleeding condition, certainly when he called it von Willebrand's. I think that's lesser known than if you were to hear the word haemophilia. So I found out very early on, right from the beginning even, that he had a bleeding condition. And we were just really young, and we hadn't obviously at that point thought about how that would affect our lives if we were to be married or grow old together or have children. We were just enjoying life as teenagers.
So it wasn't something that really concerned you when he told you?
Not at all, no. If you've met him before, you will see that he's very confident. He's very matter of fact. He's not a worrier, and he just takes everything in his stride. So it was never presented to me like it would be a problem for him or that he had any major issues with it. Obviously, he was careful with certain things that he was doing, but he wasn't a child, so he was old enough to be able to manage all those things himself. And it wasn't a problem because I would see him as a very capable person who was living a wonderful and fulfilled life.
Does that chime with you, Anya? Is that something that you felt as well when you met your partner?
Yeah, so when we met, I can't really remember how it happened, but I knew that Rich had haemophilia from the get-go before we even got together. We met through friends, and I already knew that there was this thing. I vaguely knew what haemophilia was because it's in the Russian royal family, and I was always like he's royalty. I don't remember us ever having a conversation about what the limitations that would ever be because he's got this bleeding condition. I just don't remember that being a thing.
And what about you, Tom?
Yeah, so it's very similar actually. There was never really a discussion of anything when it comes to it. I met Bonnie in McDonald's. God, she was 17 and I was 21. And then it just sort of went from there. But the main thing is when Bonnie had factor 8 before, it was an injection into the arm. So she's got a bit of scarring on where obviously they inject it. And that was the first sort of sign of when I started to think, well, what's that from? Or just looked at it and thought, well, what is it from? And then, she just explained it to me. When we first got together, it was just sort of, I've got haemophilia. It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's a blood condition. I treat it myself and okay, that's fine. And then as obviously life's gone on more and more, it's where it's become more awareness for me. The kids know about it. And it's one of those that's sort of grown into the family.
So Bonnie's quite unusual in that she is a woman with severe haemophilia. Is that something that when you started to find out a bit more about it, you were surprised by? Did that?
I think it's more of a worry than a surprise. I think that was the first thought, because obviously there's just certain things that she would say, like one thing that Bonnie was worried about before is that, I might have to have my ankles fused. Her ankles are still bad. She's got arthritis and everything in them now. It's a bit more complicated. But when it comes to certain points, so you sort of find out, don't worry about it. And then all of a sudden you ask a question and it's like, whoa, well, what do you mean that might happen? Or they're just sort of things that you find out as you go on. It's not something obviously you discuss straight away when you meet and go, oh yeah, I might end up like this or whatever, or this might happen. It's more of a surprise, and it's nerve-wracking to know that it could happen. So it's just been certain things through the years that we've been together that it's just you see what happens rather than her be able to tell you. It's sort of a barrier when it comes to it, and then it sort of goes, and then you go to the next one.
That sounds a bit like sometimes, although you're there to support her, you maybe feel a little bit helpless to stop things.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%.
How about you, Anya? Because your partner has haemophilia as well.
Yeah, so he's got severe A. And I think it's just what Tom was saying about like sometimes he'll do something which I think is a minor injury, as in like a bump to the head or, trip over something. And you kind of forget that he's not going to recover as quickly as I will, because I'm just like, you're fine. And then he's like, I'm really not. And then there's the big bruise that blooms within minutes. And you're like, I just forget, because you never talk about it until it's like critical. And then you kind of go through every worst case scenario in your head of like, should we go to A&E? Should we call the consultant? Should we cancel all plans, go home, put ice on it? Yeah. You kind of, it's just a different way of living, I think.
So you said something quite interesting there about it not really affecting life until all of a sudden something does happen.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're sort of thrust into remembering again.
Yeah.
Are there times when you worry about things on, just in day-to-day life? Are there things that you've had to adapt to, if you like?
I think this makes me sound terrible because I just forget that he has the condition because it's just like so irrelevant to my life. I always say that his blood not clotting is like one of the least interesting thing about him. He's so much more than just his blood not clotting.
Yeah.
I forget, and I'm like, oh, do you want to go ice skating? No, we're not going ice skating. Or, I'd really like to go to Disneyland. Well, I don't really think that's the best idea, but you just forget, don't you?
Yeah.
Things like that I never considered, just what I take for granted because I'm quite privileged. I've never had any illness or any serious illness or condition. So,
what about you, Emma, with sort of day-to-day life? Are there things that you maybe have to think about more than you might if Andrew didn't have a bleeding disorder?
I totally agree with what you've both said. So it doesn't define him in any way, and we almost do completely forget about it at times because, like you said, Anya, there's so much more than that. And it's not until something arises when you think, oh, yeah, we need to do this. We need to deal with this. How should we approach this? And I think having a busy life with children and some of our daughters having the condition as well, they take our attention so much away from the fact that Andrew has it. We're almost not focusing on him having it. We almost try not to worry about anything that's going to happen because that's not going to stop it happening. And we just deal with it when it comes.
Yeah, you could be really, really like risk averse, but you just spend your life sat in your living room. What's the point? You might as well go and enjoy yourself.
I really like Anya's comment that her partner Richard's bleeding disorder is the most uninteresting thing about him. She's not wrong, of course, but both Rich and Tom's partner Bonnie are advocates for people with bleeding disorders, and they quite regularly speak in public about their experiences. I wondered what it was like for Tom, Anya and Emma to hear their partners talking about their lives, and how it feels when they have to disclose their bleeding disorder to someone else. Here's Anya again.
I think because Rich is very vocal about his condition and he is an advocate and he does lots of academic papers and talks and who knows what else about the condition. I'm really, really proud of him and I'm like, yeah, go team. But I think there's a difference between Dr. Rich Gorman, haemophilia advocate, and rich, the husband, brother, son, son-in-law, brother-in-law. And there's a real difference between him standing on stage saying, I've got this condition, X, Y, and Z, this is how it affects me, and actually saying, in a day-to-day setting, this isn't accessible, he needs a seat, these floors are too hard. Being like, we were at someone's house at the weekend and the stone floors, and I could tell that it was going to hurt his legs because there was no bounce, there was no give, and he needed a seat, and it was just a bit, it's not awkward, but it was just like, I didn't want him to disclose personal information and really have to say, I've got this condition, it's really hurting my ankles, I need to sit down. So there is a difference between the public persona and the individual.
Yeah. Is that the same for you, Tom?
Yeah, it's really weird actually, because the way you just said it is right. Is obviously when Bonnie does what she needs to do in front of the right people, she's fantastic. Like, she went to Switzerland and represented and so on. But when it's like a situation like day-to-day life, she just sort of gets on with it. And I think that's part of dealing with it from such a young age and knowing about it, and this is the way life's going to be. I think when it comes to day-to-day life, like if we went to the shopping centre, she wouldn't really want to walk around as much and would sit down and so on. But yeah, when it comes to doing it in front of the right people, she's very good at making more people aware. If she has to go somewhere to represent something to do with haemophilia, she absolutely loves that part of it, and she's very good at it. It's just crazy listening to Anya then say that it's very similar. Like, it's like, I've got haemophilia, I just get on with life and try and make people understand this is what it is. One thing with Bonnie is she wouldn't go out, like where we live, she wouldn't just go out and say something to people. She keeps it to herself.
Like a mask or a public persona that they're able to put on.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's weird when I was listening to you say then that is exactly what Bonnie's like.
What about with Andrew, Emma? Are there any sort of situations you found yourself in day-to-day life where he's needed to speak about his condition to somebody else for any reason?
I would say very similar to what you've both said, in terms of in his work, he doesn't have to necessarily disclose that he has a condition. It wouldn't come up in any conversations necessarily that he's having, or anybody that didn't need to know about the condition. Generally, they just wouldn't know. But if he had to go and speak about it, then absolutely, I'm so proud of him for doing that. And when he's needed to do those things and help other people, inform other people, do things through the charity, it's just lovely to listen to him and be able to talk about his lived experience in such a informative and positive way to others, so that they can feel empowered by what he's saying rather than frightened. And I think that's very important to know, that you can live your life as you choose, but you just have to make adjustments for certain things along the way. And it's part of your life.
Something that's really coming across here is that you all sound really proud of your partners and their ability to stand up and to share something that's really quite personal.
Yeah, definitely. I think maybe not everybody would be happy to talk about something that's so personal to them. I don't know if it comes from a place of you just want to get on and live your life, and you personally are dealing with those things as you go. You don't want to have to explain it in your everyday life, because you're just living your life happily without having to explain that over and over again. But when you need to, and you're talking to people where it really matters, it's really having an impact on their life, it's really helping them. It's helping them to advocate for themselves. It's helping them to manage their condition. It's helping them to feel like they are not alone. Even how we're talking today as a group, being a partner of somebody with a bleeding condition, it's very rare to have these lines of communication and speak to other partners and see how they find life. I'm the worrier in our relationship, and Andrew is not. He doesn't worry about things, and I may worry about things sometimes on his behalf that he has not even thought about. And he has taught me very much to live in the moment and not to worry about those things or cross the bridge until we arrive at the bridge.
We've all been with our partners like a long time. I think that, like with Bonnie, I think she worries about getting judged. And like obviously the day and age we live in now, people judge everybody. I think every time she tells someone new, I think in the back of her mind she thinks they're going to go through that situation of, oh well, Bonnie can't do that, so let's not invite her. Or she can't do this, or she can't do that. It's only recently that more of a friend group have found out about haemophilia because of she's been like to a charity event or done whatever she needs to do to announce it, and then she shared that because obviously she wants to show them what she's done. And I just think it's more of like, for her anyway, she worries about the way people will judge her and the way that they'll worry about what they can do with her. Or
do you think your role's different as a partner of somebody with a bleeding disorder in terms of the support that you need to give and maybe the things that you have to take into consideration?
Me personally, I would say that 100% it's different with someone with a blood condition, because obviously I know what Bonnie can and can't do, so you sort of have to plan that around. And like Anya was saying before about ice skating, we could go ice skating, say, just as an example again. You could go, but it's more the fact of what if she was to slip? What would happen if someone come past her and knocked her over? Like, it's more the situation than she can't do it, because she can do it. But what are the repercussions of doing it? What will it do on her ankles, or what will it do with her body? Like, it's not she can't do something. It's more, what can we do together?
Anya, what would you say?
You're right. It just becomes your new normal. You don't want to do something that your partner can't do. That's just not.
Yeah.
That's just not fun. I would say, like, I find that sometimes my role is to be the what if girl. So, like, what if he gets blisters? Well, I carry plasters all the time. What happens if he has a cut? Well, I've always got plasters. What happens if this? Well, I've always got a taxi number on hand. Or, like, you kind of go through not the worst case scenario, but like, how can I make things better if things go a bit squiffy on the way? And you kind of like plan for that so that you feel supported and feels that everything we do is accessible. And
so you have almost like a mental checklist if you're going out for a bit of an adventurous day out or whatever.
Yeah, like, my handbag's fascinating. There's so much stuff in it for every eventuality.
It sounds like you're a very handy woman to know. How about you, Emma? Does that sound familiar to you as well?
Yeah, very similar. I'm the rucksack girl. So I have the ice packs in there. When we're treating, it's always an emergency situation that we're treating in. So we have to have everything very quickly. So yes, I just try to smooth the way as best I can and make sure I have the bits and pieces that we might need and hopefully don't need, that everything is there if we do. But I would say Andrew is he doesn't let it stop him doing anything. So I know we've referenced ice skating a few times. If there's anything he shouldn't do, he's probably going to want to do that thing. So that's what makes me a nervous wreck more than anything sometimes. But he's determined to not let it stop him. And I think when you're younger, he was even more like this. He wouldn't really tell anybody he had the condition. He would just know what to do in his own mind. And if he wanted to do something, he would do it. Now, as he gets older, we do have to plan for the repercussions of those things a little bit more and talk about it together. And I might say to him, well, have you thought about if this was to happen? And he would say to me, don't worry, that's not going to happen. But if it did happen, how is that now going to affect your work? And then the children and the logistics of those things. And as you get older, how your joints maybe aren't recovering as quickly. As you get older, the goalposts and things that you can tolerate maybe are slightly different.
Yeah. How do you feel about sort of going into the future? You know, if you could imagine yourself and your partner 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, how would you like things to look for them and for you as well?
I'm going to be really honest. I think we very much just try to live in the moment now and what's happening now. Obviously, in our minds, yes, the future is there and we have plans, but we don't overly focus on those things. We really just try to live in the now. I hope that research will improve, that trials will become more, and they will be able to find medication that can make life easier, maybe. And that, obviously I wish that he has a happy and healthy life. That's all I ever wish, and that we have a, long, happy, healthy life together.
Anya, what do you think?
I haven't really thought about the future. I mean, the good news is that we've never been old before, so I don't really know what to expect anyway. So yeah. When we're old and decrepit, we'll be old and decrepit, and I won't know any different from it being old, decrepit, and a haemophiliac. So yeah.
So true.
How about you, Tom?
I think obviously it's very similar to Emma. You sort of live in the moment rather than what if. Because obviously, as time goes on, Bonnie's going to mobility's become an issue over the last sort of 10 years, and that's only going to get worse. So I think while you can, you've got to do it. I think that obviously, yeah, it's one of those where you don't know what's around the corner, and we've done she's had haemophilia 31 years, so it's not going to change. Obviously, you would hope, like Emma said, medicine gets better, which to a certain degree it has. Yeah, I think you've got to live for today, not tomorrow. It's not a issue. I think you just sort of cross the barrier when it comes to it.
So there's a real thing there about taking each day as it comes, but you've obviously all got your worries at the back of the mind there and the mental checklist just to make sure that you take each day as it comes, but everything is as right as it can be at the same time. Everything's sort of
definitely. And I think something that we've all said there is about the teamwork, and it's the unspoken teamwork. So we all know the jobs that we need to do. They know the jobs that they need to do. And that's changing, a moving target every day. But as long as you're working as a team, you're stronger together.
As you can hear, although Emma, Anya and Tom are very much involved in supporting their partners to live well, this isn't always easy. Tom raised an interesting point about how, particularly when something serious happens to their partner, it can be traumatic for them too. But their role, the impact on them and their own support needs aren't always taken into account.
One thing that I found like being a partner to Bonnie is that I think sometimes in certain situations the support for the partner, there isn't anything there. And I think that support for haemophiliacs can be better, but I think there's a little bit there for partners as well, potentially. And like we said before, we live for today because you don't know what tomorrow brings. And I just think that there could be a lot more awareness around her family and a blood condition. I think that there's not much there. It's more the aftercare sort of thing for a family or a situation. It's one of those. It's just my thing that I've always said to Bonnie, that there's never been as a partner. How are you? Do you know what I mean? What's it like for you? And it's great in this now to hear the same situation from people. It sounds like all of us are in the same sort of situation where our partners just get on with it because they know what needs to be done, and we're a little bit well, we need to do this or we need to do that, and this is how we support them. But when it comes to a situation where it is serious, which touch wood no one's ever in, you're just a support. Do you know what I mean? You're the person that's, oh, okay, we need to deal with this now.
I was just going to say, I think you're really right there, Tom. I go to Richard's appointments with him now, and I go from being, if I ask too many questions, I feel like I'm being branded as the hysterical wife, as being too controlling. And then when something does happen, like he ended up in A&E a few years ago, and it was really stressful and chaotic. And I had all these doctors just firing out all these medical terms at me, and I was like, "You've made me go from being like a hysterical wife to being a medic, and there's no in between. Like, you need to give me this information in a way that I can understand, because I don't do science. I don't understand." It totally went from me being a drama queen to, oh yeah, this is a problem, and blah 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 blah.
Yeah, with no real sort of consideration of actually how you sit in anything, how you
or how I understand the information, or how the information is given to me in a way that I'm able to understand and share on to other people, like his mum or other doctors further on down the line, or the nurses that come in. It was just pretty stressful.
Yeah, it sounds it.
I think you don't know what it's like to worry about someone with a blood condition until you're that person worrying about that person. And I think that's where there's like more support, or more something needs to go into somewhere to make people understand that it's fine that Bonnie, Richard, everyone's fine with their own conditions, but we don't have that. So it's like, it's always a worry. And like Emma said, you live for today rather than tomorrow, because you don't know what's coming. But while you're living for the day, you're worrying.
I also think, and that's really important what you've just said as well, because you're always living in the moment, living in the day, and when everything's happening, like you've both said, a really traumatic experience has come up for you, and we've certainly had those times as well. You're so worried, you come out the other side and you're left with the trauma of the situation, but flung into the next thing that's happening, never processing those traumas, and they're building along the way. And I guess one of the ways that we deal with the trauma could be talking it out. But if you're just talking with friends, they don't necessarily, as much as they can be there for you, they can never really understand. They can love you and they can support you, but they don't understand exactly what's going through your mind and how you feel in that situation. So speaking to other partners maybe can help with that, because we have similar lived experiences, or have been through similar experiences, or we might not have the answers, but we might have the empathy and the understanding to say, yeah, that happened to me and I felt like that as well. And just talking through the situation sometimes is helpful. And I think it's very difficult to find.
Is it something that any of you ever get the opportunity to do? Speak with other partners?
No.
14 years me and Bonnie have been together, and I've always said to her, like, whenever there's been a traumatic experience, I've always wanted to say that to people. Like, I've always wanted to say that there's never that support of, like, to a partner with someone with haemophilia. And I think that, and she's always like, no, don't worry. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't see, like, my side of it. So she's fine. She's got haemophilia. She knows what she needs to do in any situation. There's always been a little bit of frustration, and that's why when you sent me the email, I thought, do you know what, this would be a great situation to just speak to some people that are in my situation, just know, like, just to see. And it's like crazy that it's all very similar. And whenever you've explained something, I thought, God, that just sounds like me and Bonnie. Like, it's not a different in any different. Like, they sound like the same people because they're just dealing what they've got to deal with. And you just support them as much as possible. And like you said, everyone's proud of their partners, and it's more, there's two parts of it for me. And I just think that, yeah, it's just great to listen to and hear.
A huge thank you to Emma, Anya and Tom for taking part in this episode of Haemcast, and to local families with bleeding disorders. If your family is affected by a bleeding disorder and you'd like to connect with the local families group, you can find details of their website in the information for this episode. Thank you for listening, and join us again soon.